everywhere. All right, but now, Wes, if you'll indulge me for a moment, I've got a personal favorite shining moment that I'd like to talk about.
I'm all ears.
All right, take a look at this player. He may not be a household name, but I'll tell you, in Philadelphia, he is a living legend.
Nick Foles, a living legend? He spent more time as a backup than he did as a starter.
Yeah, and that's what's weird because he had a lot of ups and downs, right? He was drafted in the 3rd round by the Eagles, started a few seasons, fell out of favor, and was traded. Bounced around with other teams like the Rams and the Chiefs, and like you said, relegated to the role of backup more often than not. In fact, Nick once said, quote, "I've been overlooked, praised, questioned, lauded, labeled, celebrated, and derided. Sometimes all in the span of a single week." That's the life of an NFL quarterback, right?
But then he signed with the Eagles again. But this time he was the backup to Carson Wentz.
Yes, and 2017 is the year, and Wentz was having an MVP-type season until Week 14 when he busted up his knee. The Eagles were 12-2 at the time and looking like the NFC favorite when Foles had to take over at quarterback.
I remember it. It was like, well, there goes any hope of the Eagles making the Super Bowl again.
Yeah, and that's pretty much what they thought in Philly. But in the playoffs, the Eagles squeaked by the Atlanta Falcons. And then in the NFC Championship game, the Eagles faced the Minnesota Vikings, who had the league's best-ranked defense. All Nick Foles did was pass for 352 yards and 3 touchdowns, and the Eagles rolled. They won it 38-7.
So, Murph, I'm going to ask you, was that Nick's shining moment?
Not so fast, my friend, because then came the Super Bowl versus Tom Brady and the New England Patriots, who are 5.5-point favorites in that game. Turned out to be a classic game with both quarterbacks lighting it up. Foles threw for 373 yards, 3 touchdowns, and he caught another touchdown.
Yes, the Philly special. I've been waiting on us to talk about this.
Yeah, you remember, last play of the first half, 4th and goal, they ran a trick play where the ball was hiked to Corey Clement, the running back, who handed it off to the tight end, Trey Burton, who threw the ball to a wide-open Nick Foles in the end zone.
Look, that's a pretty gutsy call, and it took New England completely by surprise.
So the Eagles go on to win the game 41-33. They achieved their franchise's first Super Bowl title. Nick Foles named the MVP. And today, in front of the Eagles Stadium, is a statue of Nick Foles and Coach Doug Peterson. It represents the moment that Nick suggests they try the Philly special. And Doug says, okay, let's do it. And the rest is history.
Murph, when they erect a statue of you, you know you've reached legendary status. So I'm going to ask you again, was this Nick's shining moment?
Yeah, it certainly was. You can't do much better than that. Now, I got to say, Nick Foles probably not going to make the Pro Football Hall of Fame, but in Philadelphia, he is revered and will always be loved and admired.